The Alley Theater presents what I term a challenging concept piece. This is Dr. David D. Shine, and welcome to this special edition of Starstruck as we keep our audiences up to date on the theater and art scene. I didn't know what I would actually see when I went to a play called Cambodian Rock Band. And you may say, well, Dr. Shine, why did you go to that? Well, I went because I'm a subscriber to the Alley, and I picked 6 plays, and this was one of them. But it's a very different experience than if you were expecting to go to a musical and hear a band or hear the study of a band. And there's a variety of movies and plays that do feature a band or just traditional musicals. But this is simply not a show about a rock band. It's a framework for telling a story of the horrors that occurred in Cambodia during the Pol Pot regime from 1975 to 1979. This happened after the Americans left both Vietnam and Cambodia, and largely the communist backed Viet Cong took over South Vietnam, basically taking over all of Vietnam, and a communist group called the Khmer Rouge under Pol Pot, with a very weird, destructive form of communism, took over Cambodia at about the same time. In fact, it was so bad that the Viet Cong then went in 1979 and cleared out Cambodia because the Pol Pot regime was giving the rest of the Southeast Asia communists a bad name. That's how bad it is, folks, when the Viet Cong are a step up from the Pol Pot crew. So these are the real facts, and I actually had to do some history research because even though I lived through that time period, I did not know all the details. Many of you know this in different reports called the killing fields, and I'm pretty sure, and there's some movies about this horrendous period. This has been compared as the only thing comparable to the killing fields was actually the Holocaust during World War II. That's how bad this was, folks. An estimated 1.5 to 2 million Cambodians died of starvation, execution, disease, or overwork. The play begins innocently enough with a 5-piece band singing rock and roll, but with Cambodian lyrics. The performers then make the audience aware that they are near the fall of Phnom Penh, the capital of Cambodia. The justifiable fear that they had was that since the Khmer Rouge had already taken about 2/3 of the country and had begun this horrendous process of taking anyone that was educated, artists, teachers, journalists, and artists, performers, and sending them out into the fields to grow rice. Part of the failure of this situation, which has been a failure of virtually all communist systems where they set up production goals, is that they never ever reach those production goals. And of course that happened here, which meant that many of these people, despite working in the rice fields for 12 hours a day or longer, could not grow enough rice to actually feed the population. And that was part of the reason that the Viet Cong came in, because the people in the neighboring country were starving to death and were coming into Vietnam, which put pressure on the social and support structure in Vietnam. Just, again, an extraordinarily sad situation. The band performs some more, but then the show switches to the intermission, and when it comes back, it's a very different scene. We are at the notorious prison S21 under the leadership of Comrade Duch. This is played by actor Francis Yu. I'm not really sure how to evaluate. I've been doing theater criticism for a long time, folks. This is a tough call. He is an actor, but he is in charge in the play of running this 20,000 prisoner prison. Eventually 20,000 people came through that prison. Reportedly, only 12 survived. A horrendous record. And people, as the play depicts, were tortured, but they didn't know why they were being tortured. They were told that they could die peacefully if they would just confess, but then they weren't told what they were confessing to, so they could at least die. And the torture was quite extreme, and you only see a touch of that on stage. But in doing my research for behind the scenes, it was one of the more incredible situations. And frankly, I'm not comfortable sharing more details from the historical research I did, but all of you can do that for sure. It switches this fellow Duch, the character Duch, from being this murderer to being almost a caricature. And this is exacerbated by the final scene in the play when he comes up on stage and performs with the rock band. So it's a difficult call as to how I feel about him. And it may be influenced because he's playing one of the worst people that ever lived in his role as the head of this horrible prison, S21. The excellent cast members are not from the Alley regular company. This is a second play in a row where they've got some very different people on stage. That's fine with me, but anyway, just so you're aware of that. I want to salute all the performers, especially Joe Go, Gina Quintos, Moses Villarama, Abraham Kim, and Jane Liu. This was tough going, folks, and they perform with enthusiasm and clearly with commitment to their roles. The Cambodian songs are credited to the California rock group Dengue Fever, and somehow I've heard the name of this band before, but I was not familiar with their music. My criticism of the play comes in two pieces. One is that more of the background of the history of the situation might have been shared in the program, or maybe even a slide before the show opens on the screen, telling people that this is real stuff and giving a little bit more of a structure, because again, this is a Holocaust situation. This is not what you would consider something that would be the subject of a musical, and certainly not this particular musical approach. My second criticism is that there should have been a projection of the translation of the lyrics. So this is very easily done today. Even small companies like the Heights Opera, accurately portray the translations on the screen around the performers. And I think that could have been done. I would have liked to have known what the band was singing about. And again, I don't speak Cambodian, and even if I did, I probably wouldn't be able to understand it as song lyrics. This is a demanding play to watch. I do recommend it for an adult audience. It's a very interesting piece of theater, but it's pretty tough. I do want to compliment the Alley for being adventurous enough to present it, and the playwright, Lauren Yee, who obviously did her homework on this particular production. This is Dr. Dave awarding 4 stars to Cambodian rock band and the Alley Theater. My disclaimer, as usual, I buy my own tickets and I do not disclose that I'm doing a review. So this is a true neutral situation. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on your favorite platform.